Who does Zendaya play in The Odyssey? Athena explained. Warning, spoiler warning. Before we begin, this video contains major spoilers for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey and Homer's original epic poem. We'll be breaking down Zendaya's role as Athena, why she's one of the story's most important characters, and what her mysterious appearances really mean. With that said, let's get started. One of the biggest surprises in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey isn't Odysseus, or the Cyclops, or even the gods themselves. It's Zendaya. Instead of playing a mortal queen, or a warrior, or a princess, Zendaya takes on one of the most powerful roles in all of Greek mythology, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, strategy, justice, and the divine protector of Odysseus. But if you're expecting Athena to appear like a traditional fantasy goddess surrounded by lightning and glowing magic, Christopher Nolan has something very different in mind. His version of Athena is subtle, mysterious, and often impossible to fully explain. So, who exactly is Athena? Why does she help Odysseus? And what does Zendaya's performance really mean? Let's break it all down. To understand Athena, we first have to understand where she stands among the Greek gods. Athena is the daughter of Zeus, king of the Olympians. Unlike Ares, the god of brutal warfare, Athena represents something entirely different. She is the goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, justice, craftsmanship, and intelligent leadership. She doesn't believe battles are won by strength alone. She believes they're won by careful planning, patience, and knowing exactly when to act. In many ways, she's the complete opposite of reckless heroes who charge into danger without thinking. That philosophy explains why Athena becomes so deeply connected to Odysseus. Among all the warriors who fought in the Trojan War, Odysseus wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the fastest, and he certainly wasn't the biggest. What made him extraordinary was his mind. Whenever others reached for a sword, Odysseus searched for a solution. His greatest victory wasn't defeating an enemy in single combat. It was creating the Trojan horse, one of the greatest military strategies in mythology. Instead of breaking Troy's walls by force, he convinced the Trojans to open their own gates. That kind of intelligence is exactly what Athena admires. To her, Odysseus isn't simply another king. He's the perfect champion of wisdom over brute strength. That's why Athena never truly abandons him. Even after the Trojan War ends, when Poseidon curses Odysseus and turns his journey home into a nightmare, Athena remains his greatest ally. She cannot always interfere directly. The gods have their own rules. But whenever she finds an opportunity, she quietly guides events in Odysseus's favor. Sometimes she offers advice, sometimes protection. Sometimes she simply appears when hope is almost gone. In Christopher Nolan's adaptation, Zendaya's Athena follows that same tradition. Rather than fighting monsters herself, she becomes a guide, a quiet force influencing events from the background. She appears during key turning points in Odysseus's journey, offering wisdom instead of weapons, direction instead of commands. Instead of solving every problem for him, she helps him discover the strength already within himself. That's a very different type of hero, and it perfectly matches Athena's role in Greek mythology. Athena's influence also extends beyond Odysseus himself. While Odysseus struggles to return home, his son Telemachus grows up believing his father may never return. The kingdom of Ithaca begins falling apart. Suitors invade the palace. Penelope faces enormous pressure to remarry. The royal family slowly loses hope. Athena refuses to let that happen. She encourages Telemachus to leave home, search for answers, and begin the journey that will eventually reunite father and son. Without Athena's guidance, Telemachus might never discover the truth about his father. One of the most fascinating aspects of Nolan's adaptation is how differently he presents the gods. Traditional adaptations often show Olympus as a place filled with dazzling visual effects. Gods appear in brilliant light, command thunder, perform impossible miracles. Christopher Nolan appears to take a much more restrained approach. Athena isn't constantly announcing her divine power. Instead, she feels almost human, quiet, observant, thoughtful. That subtle approach creates an interesting question for the audience. Is Athena literally standing beside Odysseus, or are we witnessing something more symbolic? That's become one of the biggest discussions surrounding the film. There are two main ways to interpret Athena. The first interpretation is straightforward. She is exactly who mythology says she is, a real goddess guiding events behind the scenes, protecting her favorite hero from dangers he cannot overcome alone. That's how Homer presents her, and there's plenty of evidence supporting that reading. But Nolan often enjoys leaving room for interpretation. That leads to the second possibility. Perhaps Athena also represents something inside Odysseus himself. His wisdom, his conscience, his determination to keep moving forward even when everything seems lost. Instead of existing only as a physical goddess, she may also symbolize the intelligence and resilience that separate Odysseus from every other warrior. The beauty of Nolan's storytelling is that both interpretations can exist at the same time. That subtle approach is one reason Zendaya feels like such an inspired choice for Athena. Athena doesn't need overwhelming physical power. She needs presence, the ability to command attention with only a few words. Zendaya has repeatedly demonstrated that kind of performance throughout her career. She brings intelligence, calmness, and emotional depth to every scene. Rather than portraying Athena as distant or cold, she makes the goddess feel compassionate, wise, and quietly powerful. It's exactly the kind of understated performance Christopher Nolan often prefers. There's another reason Athena is so important to the story. Without her, the Odyssey might never happen. Odysseus could remain trapped forever. Telemachus might never begin searching for his father. Penelope could eventually lose her kingdom. And the family at the heart of the story might never reunite. Athena isn't simply another supporting character. She's the invisible force connecting almost every major event. Sometimes, heroes need someone to remind them who they truly are. That's the role Athena plays. Not by fighting every battle, but by making sure the right people never stop fighting for themselves. Perhaps that's why Athena remains one of the most beloved figures in Greek mythology. She reminds us that true strength isn't always measured by muscles or weapons or armies. Sometimes the greatest victories belong to those who think before they act, who solve impossible problems through wisdom rather than violence. And no hero represents that philosophy better than Odysseus. Final thoughts. So, who does Zendaya play in the Odyssey? She plays Athena, the goddess of wisdom, strategy, justice, and Odysseus' greatest divine ally. But in Christopher Nolan's hands, Athena becomes something even more intriguing. She isn't simply a goddess descending from Olympus. She becomes a mysterious guide, a symbol of hope, and perhaps even the embodiment of the wisdom that has always defined Odysseus himself. Whether you see Athena as a literal goddess or as a deeper symbol of guidance and inner strength, one thing is certain. Without her, Odysseus' journey home would have been almost impossible. And that may be exactly why Christopher Nolan chose one of the film's strongest performers to bring her to life. So what do you think? Do you believe Nolan's Athena is meant to be a literal Greek goddess or a symbolic representation of Odysseus' wisdom and destiny? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more The Odyssey Explained videos, mythology breakdowns, hidden details, and Christopher Nolan movie analysis.